Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Technology Tuesday, hosted by Out of the Box Technology. We're excited to bring you these free webinars featuring third-party applications, tips and tricks from in and outside of QuickBooks, and hot topics that our industry is encountering. My name is Jennifer Darachuk. I will be your moderator today. I work in business development and customer relations here at Out of the Box, and I'm excited to be a part of Technology Tuesdays, where we can bring these exciting topics to the forefront each and every week. A little bit about Out of the Box Technology. We work a lot with QuickBooks training, integration, hosting, and support. We offer bookkeeping services. We do website design and custom app development. We also do data migrations and have a plethora of franchise services and solutions. We are really excited about two of our products that we have to offer the market. The first is our event app, which is a fully customizable event app, if you couldn't tell by the name, that so many companies are using and really enjoying to enhance their company events. And the other is Recur 360, which is our latest development. We were part of Intuit's top 10 new apps in 2017 for Recur 360. And this app brings recurring payments and invoicing solutions to your business in so many different ways. And we're constantly improving it and taking feedback. So if you would love some information about Recur 360 or our event app, please reach out to me at the end of this session. We have a really special presentation on May 3rd with QB Power Hour that is specifically on Recur 360. So we invite you to check that out, and I can send you some more information if you're interested. But back to the topic at hand here with Technology Tuesdays, we are really excited to get to know Nexonia, and I have Dave Penny on the line with me with Nexonia, and he's going to take us through a really great interactive demonstration of the product and how it can work for you. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to you, Dave, to get us started.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, it's Dane here, folks. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to run through a sort of a typical demo that I would do for clients who are looking to utilize the Nexonia solution within their operations. And Jennifer and I have talked about this, and we're just going to sort of make it an interactive sort of discussion so that if you have questions, typically I'll cover most of it throughout the demo, but if there are some questions, if you want to save them to the end, it's probably the easiest way to handle it. But Jennifer and I will run through as if Jennifer were a potential client or somebody looking at our solution, and I'm going to show the different features of our mobile application as well as our web format as well. So hopefully right now on my screen you'll see the Nexonia application, which is an iOS-based solution, but it also works with Android solutions as well. So most of the products, phone products out there in the market, you'll be able to utilize our product with. Also, it's capable offline. So if you are, say, traveling on a plane, I know that I'm actually traveling this week, and I actually set up some. I traveled yesterday, and I took some pictures of while I was on the plane yesterday. And it's something you can do if you do not have an internet connection. You can just save your receipts and save and create a report, and then come back to those and input receipts afterwards when you're actually sitting down to do the actual expense report. So what I'm going to do is walk through essentially how we utilize the expense solution, and just by setting up a new item. So first thing I'm actually going to go ahead and do, and this is on my iOS product, so I'm going to go ahead and create a report. Again, there's many different ways to do this. This is just a methodology I use. Everybody has their favorite way. I just want to create this report now. And it's going to default back to the day in which you're using it. In this situation, I'm going to call it April expenses, and hit done. That now saves as a canned report. And now you can go in and add into this report at any time, just once I save this. So you can now, what I'm going to do is take a photo of the actual receipt, which I have on my desk. Oops, hit the camera button, not the other one. So this is a receipt I have taken from yesterday. That now gets saved into the actual solution. You can scan the receipt for OCR technology, but for this, I'm just going to go ahead and save this particular one and then link it up in a second here. Link it up to a report, to a new expense report as a manual selection. We default to the US currency based upon your setup. If you do have employees or users who are outside of the US, you can actually have default currencies to whatever country they're actually located in. We work with currencies for 167 various currencies, so there's no currency you shouldn't have a problem inputting into this solution. Or if you have employees that are traveling outside of the US, they can easily just click on the currency button and you can see some of the samples that I have from a drop down. But in this situation, it is a US currency exchange. I'm going to go ahead and put my total in here. The OCR would typically capture this, but because I'm on a Wi-Fi connection currently in a hotel, I was testing it earlier today, and I don't have the strong enough connection to actually get me the scan. If you're doing this at home or on your typical laptop or with a good Wi-Fi connection, you should have no problem doing the scan in your solution. I'm going to assign this to your to my contacts. This is where we pull information in directly from QuickBooks. So your QuickBooks would be your source account in this situation. We would have your QuickBooks linked and fully integrated within the Nexonia solution. So we would pull the information in directly from QuickBooks, and then if you made changes within QuickBooks, say to your vendor list, your customer list, whatever projects whatever base, however you're setting up within QuickBooks, you make those changes within the QuickBooks solution. That information then on a nightly sync via API tools would then connect up with Nexonia, and we would make those changes within Nexonia as early as the next day. I'm going to go ahead, assign this to a particular project, Customer Initech, and the project now is going to be the Operation Field Report. I'm going to select the category, which I took a photo of. This is for my taxi. Again, this is fully determined based upon your chart of accounts within QuickBooks. This list can be as short or as long depending on how many chart of accounts you have, but we can also make it based upon the user. The nice thing is within Nexonia is its configurability. We can make this configured to your specific needs, your specific customer needs, your specific user needs as well. You can assign certain projects, certain accounts, certain locations only applicable to select users, and that's all highly configured within the application, and all done by your team on the administrative side. We will help you initially with the implementation. We'll set the implementation of the product up for you, and then show and train your staff and your administrators how to actually use it, and then they can configure the solution to the way that they need it based upon the requirements and how they may change. This is, as you can see, paid by the employee, reimbursable. If this were a corporate card expense, you would see a different operation here, and I will show you. I'll go back to that in just a moment when we finish up this one. This is actually a billable expense. Again, this can be configured to your requirements. If you do not have billable expenses applicable to you, we can hide this particular box here, and you wouldn't actually see that drop-down item from a billable perspective. But again, for the demo purposes, I'm showing the capability of the product, and you can go ahead and see that there. I'm going to save that particular one now. This now saves as an active April expense. Jennifer, any questions on how I've created that particular expense right now on the initial one here?
Just a question I did have actually. You commented that it would sync with QuickBooks, every night it'll do a sync. Is there any way to manually sync? Let's say you needed to add something in that wasn't there right on the spot.
Great question. Yes, it is. So essentially, the API tools or third-party plugin tools essentially would reside within the QuickBooks functionality, and you can actually click a button on the QuickBooks screen, and it will be linked to Nexonia, and that would do a manual sync within the solution. So hypothetically, say you came in on Monday morning, you added in a couple of new customers or a couple of new projects you want your staff to work on throughout the next couple of weeks. You can create that, you can update that within QuickBooks, add that in, do a sync within Nexonia, and it will automatically sync. It typically takes about 2 or 3 minutes for it to sync over. Once that information is synced over, you can then do a quick sync of Nexonia on your mobile solution or on your web, and that information will then be ported into Nexonia for you to use.
Great, excellent. And then another question, I see that you're showing it on an iOS device. Is this functional on Android or BlackBerry?
Yes, well, BlackBerry is now from a new device perspective now runs on Android, and
Android,
yes,
right?
it does work on Android as well. Yes,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
great. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new item here now as well, just again to follow through on how we can actually utilize this. A lot of our clients that we see, and Jennifer, I'm not certain if any of your clients have actually seen this from a functionality, they like to track their employees' mileage, and they need their employees to be reimbursed for their mileage as they're driving to see clients or to work on particular projects. So I'm going to go ahead and add a mileage claim into this expense program here. And this is a little bit different. Now I'm actually going to choose the category first and select mileage. And some different fields actually open up now on the screen that were not there with the previous item where I put in taxis. You see locations and then rate. The rate is actually defaulted back to the IRS rate, which is 54.5 cents. This is a fully configurable rate. So if you have particular clients, say, who have their own vehicle or some who might have a corporate car, they can actually change this rate, or sorry, you can change this rate for them so that their assigned rates would be particular to these particular end users. Or if you typically just use the IRS rate, that's also fine, but this is fully configurable based upon your requirements. And we utilize Google Maps for waypoint technology. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the locations portion here now. You see where it says generate map, where it says where, and also where it says miles. If you knew you traveled 10 miles, you can easily enter 10 miles. But the nice thing about our technology is by hitting waypoint, you can actually select my location. So I'm going to test my Wi-Fi here again, see if it picks me up. Oh, it actually did, which is good. So this is my location here now I happen to be in Las Vegas this afternoon, I guess, this morning, my time. So, and I'm sitting here, and this actually picked up my GPS location based upon that. And this is something that your employees can use when they go visit clients, or if they're starting their trip throughout their day. They can actually input their starting point by inputting their current GPS location, and that would start their trip. For this exercise, I'm going to essentially just save that particular one, and then I'm going to add a secondary waypoint. You can add up to 5 on any particular trip. So if you have somebody who does multiple visits within one day, they can add up to 5 different destinations within one particular mileage expense. If they're traveling more than that, they would have to create a secondary one, but we don't typically see that within our daily use, but ultimately you can input up to 5 in one particular trip. You can select from your contact list if you want. You see the icons there on your left. You can separate favorites. You can go with your office. In this situation, I'm actually just going to enter the Las Vegas airport. Oops, spell Las Vegas, fat fingers here. It is. Let's see what comes up when I get this. I'm going to save that particular one and generate the map. I have so now that I have 2 waypoints in here, I can now generate the map. It generates this particular map. It's churning, looking for the actual location, and it shows I traveled 2.6 miles on my trip. So you can actually then see the map from point A to point B. So if you were continuing on with multiple waypoints, it would add those waypoints along in the map. This now can be saved as your receipt. Like the other receipt we took the photo of, those receipts are saved in the cloud within Nexonia. We will save those receipts on your behalf for up to 7 years for tax and audit purposes. Along with this receipt here now, it would be saved in your receipt bucket, and anytime you wanted to access it, you'd have the ability to do so. So we can see now I am about to be reimbursed a grand total of $1.42 based upon my 2.6 mile trip. Jennifer, any questions you think on how some of your clients would regarding mileage? You see the functionality here for them?
I don't think so. I think at first when you said you can only do the 5, but then if they go beyond that, they can just add a secondary one. So I think that would be good, because some people might be, traveling from, this job to that job to that job to that job. They're traveling all day long, but as long as there really isn't technically a limit to the number of points, I guess that's a really nice feature.
Yeah, just the tracking purposes within, because we get confusing from a waypoint perspective. But yes, you can open up a couple different mileage claims, obviously, and then have them assigned within there. You see the default here for the days. This is just defaulting back to the day just for the ease, but you can adjust those days based upon the actual requirements when the actual items are actually happening.
Okay, great.
Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is actually show how we access a credit card transaction from the actual phone, because I know that a lot of your clients would likely want to have corporate or small business cards added into Nexonia. The great thing about this is you can, a couple different ways of doing it. You can see on the screen here now, right in the very middle where it says transactions, it says the number 19 next to it. This is actually just a sample demo account that I have loaded in to show my credit card transactions. What we would do for you is import the information directly from your credit card feed, and that feed would then feed directly into Nexonia. Every 24 to 48 hours, you would get an updated credit card feed of what transactions have been occurring on the accounts that you have loaded in. You can have multiple accounts loaded into any particular user's account. So say if there is a master corporate card, which is a main purchasing card for the company, you can have that put in. And if there are individual corporate or company cards, you can put those in. But also people sometimes will put their personal cards in as well, depending on the amount of travel that they actually do and depending on how they expense and bill their travel. I'm just going to quickly go ahead and show how these transactions would look. You can see I have a company Visa saved in here at the top, and that's 14 transactions on it. But if you scroll down, you can then also see that I have a secondary Visa set up, which is considered a personal Visa in the name of Jill Thompson. In this particular situation, again, for demo purposes, they have 5 assigned to that particular one. Backing out, you see a grand total of 19. The nice thing about this is you get a running total of how many expenses you have essentially left to reconcile against your credit card. This total will then drop every time you do an actual expense assigned to your credit card. It will drop that total down. We can set reminders up, say, for employees who are less diligent at doing their reconciliation for credit cards so that they get reminders. Essentially, typically what we see is a week to 2 weeks after a transaction comes into the actual credit card feed, companies want their employees to actually reconcile their credit cards. We can set up reminders within Nexonia to send those users an update to say you have a transactions due. And likewise, we can then send their approvers or managers updates to say that your employee has not updated or reconciled their expenses or credit cards within X number of days. This is a configurability within the solution that we can actually work with you to set up based upon your company needs. I'll go back into that back into that expense and add a credit card. Now, I don't happen to have, these are just, again, sample credit card options. I don't happen to have anything from any of these particular companies. I'm just going to show the process of how we would do it. Very similar you would doing a manual solution. Typically now, though, I would have a saved receipt in my bucket somewhere, either on my laptop or in my phone. But again, within this demo situation, I don't currently have anything saved, so I'm just going to show the process of doing it. It assigns it to the customer, which we've defaulted to. We've been working on Initech and the operation field printer that assigns it to that particular one. I'm going to create the category here again. It's going to be classified as taxis again, so it's there. Tax profiles are in there, paid by the company now. This is the major difference you'll see from the previous one. The other was a manual solution. Sorry, the other was a manual expense, so then it was reimbursed to the employee. Now you can see this is actually a company card. The employee will not be reimbursed, but yet now it will reconcile with the company credit card. It shows as a billable expense, and that memo field is in here showing the actual vendor who actually was billed against the actual expense. The information is here. I'm going to take a quick photo of a dummy receipt I have here just to show, again, close the loop, show the process of how this would actually be input into the actual solution. That's been now added in. If this were the taxi receipt, you would then save that, and then it shows in the actual master receipt list here for the expenses. You've got a running total of 5509. You've got your items classified here. And then quickly go back, you can see that transaction list has now dropped down from 19 down to 18, which means one of them has been reconciled or one of them has been pulled out. Jennifer, any questions on how I've entered this in, or can you see how this would be useful for some of your clients who have corporate or company credit cards?
Yeah, I think this is really great. Just to clarify though, you wouldn't actually be able to charge from the app. It's just saying that you used that credit card for that specific receipt, correct?
Correct, yes. The application, essentially, what we do for you is, with your authorization, of course, that feed would feed directly in from Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. And that list of transactions is essentially just showing what your users, or what the employees or end users have charged on their credit cards over X number of days. So it updates every 24 to 48 hours. The feed comes in directly from the credit card company, and that shows the list of all the credit card transactions for credit cards used in that period of time.
Excellent. That's great. And I like the reconciliation reminder. I think that's really useful because everyone gets so busy, and even, on your personal checkbook, I mean, how often do you reconcile? But does that, can that come as like a push notification? Can they get a text or an email, or what are the options for receiving those reminders?
We typically do it via email, and so you get an email notification, and there are capabilities within your phone to do it as well. So you would get notifications but we can have that level set up at the time of integration.
Okay.
But typically it's via email, and then the nice thing is, within the email you can actually action the items within the email and go directly to your expense reports. You can approve within the emails and such like that as well. So
That's great.
there's a lot of functionality within that email that you get. And again, depending on how you want to have it set up within the approval process, we can have it go to the end users, bosses, or accounting departments, depending on how they want that set up.
Great. I like that. Thank you.
Great. So this is just a quick sample of how we would do an expense setup within Nexonia from an end user perspective. I think we've covered, the main setups of how a typical user would use a mobile application. Normally within my demo process, I would just do a quick submit to this and then show and shift over to what the web format looks like. Does that sound reasonable, or is there anything else you'd like to cover on the mobile solution before we jump over?
No, I think that's a good time to go to the website. Thanks.
Terrific. So I'm actually going to hit you see at the bottom here now, you see submit. That's actually going to hit the submission button, sorry. I hit OK on that. It's been submitted for approvals. You now see it's turning on the screen, showing what the actual end user would see with this. Again, my slow Wi-Fi connection is not spectacular. You notice at the bottom, though, we've got some items here that are in different processes. You see some new client meetings. These are old expense reports I've done over the last couple of weeks and months. This shows that those ones have actually, with the green checkbox, it shows it's been approved and submitted and paid. The status on this April expense now, if you notice, before it was yellow, so it was in pending. It's now resorted to blue, which is mean it's been submitted. So now this has now been submitted to the cloud. So now this would go over to my manager. So Peter Gibbons, who's the character who is the employee of Dane Penny Enterprises, a very successful company. He has now submitted his expenses, and hopefully you can see my web format. I'm going to go ahead and sync my web format, and this is now should show, if the sync goes through properly, which it did, it should show now that Peter has submitted his April expense. So as quick as that is done, I submitted that on the phone 30 seconds ago, a minute ago. It's now been submitted, and you can now see it on the web format. So if I were Peter, I could now see this on my web format. Or if I were Dane, I'll jump over to approvals afterwards, but Dane would now get a notification that there has been something submitted for approval. So this is what Peter would then see on his screen, showing the applications that he's submitted for approval here now. Again, this is just the end user view. You'll see up also here as well the approvals. What I'm showcasing you today is a demo account. So these functionalities, buttons up here, would not be visible to your typical end user. They would typically just see the expense format, and then the reporting format, if that's what you want to release to your users. But typically we just have the end users see the expense piece, and that's really it. But from an approver and administration perspective, this is what this type of account is currently set up as. So this is Peter's expense program. I am Peter's boss, Dane Penny, in this situation. So I'm actually going to jump over to my approvals button to show what I, as the approver, or any approving manager within the solution would then see if one of their employees or one of their direct reports or somebody within the departments that would report to them would submit an expense report to them. By the way, we have companies who have 35 and 36 approval processes within their chain. I don't know how they ever get expenses approved, but they have very complicated workflows. We can work with whatever workflow you want. I'm just showing you for this demo purpose a very, very simple one-step process from an approval perspective. Many companies would have department expenses that would go to a particular department manager, and then others, once that's completed within the department manager, would then proceed on to either that manager's supervisor or directly into the finance team, again, depending upon how you want to have your expenses approved. But fear not, whatever expense process or workflow process that you wanted to have, we can no doubt and surely handle based upon that. This now is the view that Dane, or the approving manager, would see of what has been submitted to Dane for approval. I can see the mileage, I can see the taxi, two taxis actually, one applicable to the cash expense and one applicable to the credit card expense. You can drill into it to look at particular information. The nice thing is you can also then see copies of the receipts. You can see how it is, all the memo notification is in there. You have the ability to see the customer. This is where some of the functionality as an approver would come in. If you are an approver and you see that one of your employees has inadvertently submitted an expense into a wrong customer, for example, you have the ability within the approval process to go in and make a change to that. You don't have to push it back to the end user. You can, but as the administrator and the approver, you have the ability to make changes within your employees setup so as to avoid some extra steps if it was a simple mistake. But for example, if you wanted to reject a particular expense, you can highlight the actual item, reject it, and this is the type of message box that you would see. You would then input information as to why you were rejecting it, and that information would then get sent back to the employee, and that the employee would be then obligated to make a change, whatever was requested. For this situation, I'm just going to go ahead and approve them all, just to highlight the actual approval process, to simplify to show how that works. This has now been approved. On the back end now, on my phone, which you don't have access to see right now, I'm actually getting a memo saying that Peter's expenses have been approved. So I'm going to jump over and look at Peter's expenses now, and you'll see that we've gone from that blue button to the green button. Peter's April expenses have now all been approved by Dane. So these have they have the ability now to be submitted. So when we did our net sync within QuickBooks, this information would then port over directly into QuickBooks, and we would assign the actual expenses and the actual debits, assign the actual expenses, to the actual chart of accounts based upon the particular categories in which they were jumped in. So we would have the billables go into taxi and assign against mileage based upon the setup you would have within QuickBooks. Any questions on how the approval process works, Jennifer? Is there anything else you'd like to see in the approval aspect?
I think that was pretty good. I liked that you could make edits in there rather than just rejecting it and making them figure it out. If it was just a quick thing that you could edit, that was really nice. Now, does that send your employee a note, customer was changed from Initech to ABC company, just so that they're aware of any changes that you made?
No, it won't highlight that in the actual change process. They won't get a note saying it was changed, but what they will see is when the expense goes through and when the expense gets submitted back to them as fully approved, it will be noted in there that the customer, that you'll see the notification that it did change, but you wouldn't get notification that it has changed, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. No, I think that's good.
So that
looks great, yeah.
Great. So this is essentially how a typical expense process would work from an end user perspective and then from an approver perspective. There's a lot of other functionality within the Nexonia product that allows us to capture data for your clients. So you'll see the functionality here in the reporting side. All the information that we capture within Nexonia has the ability to then be shared via reporting. So our product is basically a data aggregator. So anything you put in, you have the ability to pull out. Now, you can set canned reports, create reports based upon your requirements. You can have them based upon your customers, based upon your projects, based upon the category expense types. Now, this is a demo account, so I have somewhat limited, but if you were setting up your entire company into Nexonia, the information that you would put in would obviously be a little bit more likely a lot more expansive. But what I'm going to go ahead and show you, I can actually show an actual sample report of what we have currently set up within the system. So what this is again the functionality of a drop-down menu. And we, by the way, during implementation, we would work with your account admin team to set up canned reporting for you based upon your requirements. So if you said you'd like to know how much airfare you spend in a year, or how much you spend on entertainment, whatever it might be from an expense perspective, you have the ability to create these reports, and we'll show you and train you how to actually do these reports and set them up for you at the time of implementation, show you how it works, and then if you have any questions, we have our live support team, which is based in our Toronto office, and that office is open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday Eastern Standard Time. So it basically, even if anybody's on the West Coast, it would be 5 p.m. end time there, typically within work hours for most of the folks within your U.S. operations. So we have the ability to have live support. You can call in to us. We would walk you through any processes you need clarification on, or if you wanted email, you have the ability to do that as well. But you can actually run this report based upon, you can set your times, you can set your days. This is all configurable. You can have this configured to your requirements, or you can just go ahead and I'm just simply show you how we run the report, what the actual report would look like. This is a particular setup as an HTML format. I'll close that. I'm actually set up I want to run it as a PDF to show how the PDF would look. Download that report. That report now gets downloaded into your desktop. And this is the type of report that you can kick out. Again, if you wanted to hide all this information, but for, say, meals, and you just wanted to run meals, you can configure that actual report to just show meals. But this just goes to show all the expense reports that I have run within this user, Peter Gibbons, and Dane Penny's, under Dane Penny's employment would be all the users that would run this particular one. Again, you can scale this down by user, you can bring it down by any of the items that I referred to. Essentially, these categories would be your call out points. You can then put this into an Excel spreadsheet. You have the ability to do that within the actual reporting module as well. And within that report, you can see here, you can actually put into a CSV file. From there, drop it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can run analytics on what sort of expenses, what percentage-wise you're spending on certain expenditures. Jennifer, can you see this helping any of your clients who have needs to track and utilize reporting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially, that you can detail it out based on specific categories, and I think that's really excellent. A really nice reporting function there that you have.
Terrific.
I do have a couple questions that have come in,
Sure.
maybe back a topic or two, but we have one question that is asking, how do you correlate the customer, project, and category items to QuickBooks?
Well, it's how you have it change. It's how you basically use QuickBooks as a source record. So QuickBooks is your source record. So however you have it set up within QuickBooks, that information would pull over into Nexonia.
Okay, and then when you sync it, it would update it depending on how you have it. Okay.
Correct. So,
And then,
if you change a customer, for example, or if you add or delete a customer, that would pull that information in from QuickBooks, and we'd make that change automatically within Nexonia.
excellent. And then another question is, can the credit card links be set up, for example, like for Home Depot and Lowe's, in addition to Visa, MasterCard, et cetera?
Every credit card can be plugged in. And I say this is an industry-wide, I'll say dilemma, but basically every credit card feed has a requirement to be provided from the or the end user, so the company that's providing it. So corporate credit cards have the best feed because they have a very static and generic URL. So whatever the URL is, so if Home Depot, for example, or Lowe's provides access to a URL for loading that information in, then the answer is yes. We have seen in the past some credit cards feed better than others. It's quite frankly.
Okay.
Amex, for example, has the most reliable feed, corporate Amex in particular, and then corporate Visa and corporate MasterCards are the best from a feed perspective. And then as you get into smaller regional banks, they have feeds. They just have sometimes challenges in what they actually provide to their end users and whether that end user information can reliably be provided to third parties.
Okay.
So it can be done. You can put in debit cards for that matter into the solution as well.
Great. All right. Thanks for answering those questions.
Is that it from a question perspective?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, again, this is typically how I would show a demo. And that being said, Jennifer, I know you and I have talked about this before. If there's any of your clients in particular that like a personalized one-on-one demo or a demo for that we can coordinate through for them, I'd be happy to work with your team to set that up and cater a demo that would recap a lot of what we covered here. But typically what we like to do with our clients and when we're working with our partners like yourselves, Jennifer, is to have those clients just do a quick discovery call, understand what their needs are, what their main pain points are, and then from there we can cater a demo that would be customized and configured to their requirements. And I'd be happy to do so for any of your clients going forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think that there's already a couple in my mind that I think that this would be an excellent resource for. So, and those of you who are listening in live right now, if this seems like something you want to dig deeper with, please do let us know and we can help arrange that. And just so everyone is aware, this session is being recorded. So if you are watching on demand, a couple weeks down the road, and this is for you too, you haven't missed the boat as far as getting scheduled on a live demo. So please do reach out to us. Dane, if you wanted to share your contact information, and then I'll put mine up on the screen as well, to just reach out to either of us and we'll make that happen indeed.
Okay. Sorry, just my web just shut down on me. So I'm just, maybe Jennifer, what I can do is I can send you my contact info. If you'd like to share that as with your team, you can do that as well. My screen just sort of froze up on me. I think it's my Wi-Fi connection. Sorry.
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Just those of you listening in live, you'll get a follow-up email in a couple of hours here. So I'll make sure to include that information in that email so that you have our contact information either way, whether it's to Dane or to me. We'll make sure the connection happens because, like I said, and just reiterate what you've been going over, Dane, is this is a really great solution. I think that from the little bit that we saw today, the efficiency and whatnot that it can bring to people, I think is really excellent. So we really appreciate you taking the time today with this demo.
Glad to help, and I know that within the QuickBooks world, I know that we have great integration within QuickBooks, and the APIs we use for both desktop and online services can be transferred over. So it does make that integration and that information sharing back and forth with QuickBooks and Nexonia very simple. And we have hundreds and hundreds of QuickBooks users that currently use our Nexonia solution. So we've got a great connection with QuickBooks users, in particular those that require tracking all their detailed credit card information and such.
Fantastic. Well, if there isn't anything else that you want to go over, and I don't see any other questions in the queue, I will take this time to again thank you so much. I know you've got a busy week ahead of you out in Vegas, so we appreciate you stepping away for a little bit this morning and talking with us and showing us these great features of Nexonia.
My pleasure. Anytime. Keep in touch. Let me know what else next steps we'd have. But anytime we want to get something set up, I'd be happy to help. Thank you very
Great.
much, everybody, for listening in.
Thank you so much. And just bringing it back here, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us this Tuesday for Technology Tuesday. We have a couple more upcoming presentations over the next couple of months. May 15th, we have Easy Cash Flow Management for Businesses. And on May 29th, we're really excited about this session. We have a CPA coming in to talk to you about tax law changes that impact you the most. We have a couple areas that are already on the agenda, and if there's something that you really wanted to hear about, please do email me, and we can definitely get those topics to you as well, because we want to make sure that this session is really geared towards what you're looking for and what you're wanting. And then to start out the summer, the first Tuesday in June, we will have a session on password management with LastPass. LastPass is a software that has been life-saving to many, many different people, including myself, to store the hundreds of passwords that we all have, generate passwords that are unique and safe, and keep them updated. In today's world where, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and, passwords are really important. So this is a really great tool that I think can be beneficial across the industry. So check those out, outoftheboxtechnology.com/Tech Tuesdays. You can register for everything upcoming. And you can also check out the sessions that we have had in the past couple of weeks. You can watch those on demand. So we're really excited about that. As of that, I think that's about it. So I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us today. And if you have any questions, are looking for a demo, here's my information, Jennifer@ootbtechnology.com. My colleague Ellen as well is available to answer any questions. We look forward to hearing from you, and we hope to see you at our next Tech Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.